In 1987, a small group of hikers led by Viktor Lykov set out to conquer Elbrus, Europe's highest mountain. The team was young but experienced, having climbed mountains for several years, so they saw their ascent to Elbrus as a sort of warm-up at the start of the mountaineering season. More dangerous peaks awaited the hikers in the coming summer. That spring, the Lykov team disappeared, and the details of their demise remained shrouded in mystery for many years, until the summer of 2018, when another group of hikers took the same route to Elbrus and made a shocking discovery. What did modern-day mountaineers find that August day on the summit? Let's look into this story together. Viktor Lykov's team consisted of Ivan Karavayev, Anatoly Ilyukhin, Valentina Lapina, and Yelena Bazikina, the seemingly most fragile member of the group. Friends and colleagues later remembered her as being quite angelic, due to her good nature, peaceful character, and very small height, only 154 centimeters or 5 feet. The team used to call Lena Bunny. The other hikers were quite heavyset and seemed to radiate confidence. However, what Lena didn't have in height, she made up for in courage. Take a simple example. Her taller and stronger teammates could usually easily step across crevices in the ice, whereas Lena, with an enormous backpack on her back, had to jump over them, trying not to look down in the gaping abyss. Because if you look down, you panic. And if you panic, you fall. Yelena was born in 1951 in the village of Novaya Ladoga in Russia's Leningrad Oblast. Soon afterwards, her family moved to Moscow, where Yelena grew up, studied philology at Moscow State University, and later worked at a research institute. Lena never liked to talk about her work, and quite understandably, it must be hard being a simple employee in some stuffy institute department when your heart belongs to the mountains. And so Lena dreamed of conquering new heights. Due to the dangerous nature of her hobby, Lena wasn't in a hurry to start a family. Lena's mother didn't like her daughter's activities, said they were too dangerous, and pleaded for her to give up mountaineering. But Lena didn't listen to her. She spent every vacation she had in the mountains. Together with friends, Yelena Bazikina hiked through the mountains of the Crimea and the Caucasus and had already ascended Elbrus before. She wasn't interested in sports titles or awards, she just loved the mountains, their power, and their majesty. For the summer of 1987, Lena had planned ascents to mountains in Central Asia. In order to get ready for higher and more challenging peaks, she decided to once again climb Elbrus. Yelena Bazikina was good friends with Valentina Lapina. Together they went to training sessions in the local mountaineering club and decided to go to Elbrus together. They were also well acquainted with the other members of the group, so in the end, the team was quite friendly and could rely on one another. They shared the trials of their hikes as well as the warmth of the bonfires, around which they would sing and play guitar. Yelena was a talented guitar player and often delighted in singing for the others. The hikers in Viktor Lykov's group were 30 to 40 years old. All of them were experienced mountaineers, and their ascent to Elbrus, which was planned for April, wasn't supposed to be particularly challenging for them. On April 10th, the hikers came together in Mineralny Vody. All the roads to the Caucasian mountains go through this southern Russian town because it has a rail terminal and an international airport. I should tell you a bit about the core objective of the Lykov group's route, Elbrus itself. Elbrus is a stratovolcano in the Eurasian mountain range of the Caucasus, between the Black and the Caspian Seas. It rises 5,642 meters or 18,510 feet above sea level, and as I already mentioned, is the highest mountain in Europe provided we draw the border between Europe and Asia through the Caucasus. In other classifications, the highest peak in Europe would be Mont Blanc. Elbrus is part of the 7 summits, the highest mountains of each of the 7 continents. It was first conquered in 1829, and afterwards its popularity as a hiking destination only grew. If you're a mountaineer in Russia, conquering Elbrus is required to receive the Snow Leopard of Russia award, which is given to those who have climbed the 10 highest mountains in the country. Elbrus is situated in the western part of the Greater Caucasus on the border of the republics of Karachay-Cherkessia and Kabardino-Balkaria, both traditionally inhabited by Caucasian peoples that follow the Muslim faith. The Caucasus is a unique region where different cultures come together, creating a bridge between the past and the present. The peoples of the Caucasus are known for their hospitality, food, music, and tradition. Elbrus itself is a potentially active volcano and often displays seismic activity. Its peak can be fairly dangerous. Each climbing season, it takes the lives of about 20 people. One of the reasons for that might be that some hikers approach the ascent too lightheartedly, believing its routes to be unchallenging. But the mountains do not forgive such arrogance. Recently, I made a video about the incident that took place on Elbrus in September of 2021, when the seemingly harmless mountain took the lives of 5 people. But let's return to the story of Viktor Lykov and his team. The hikers wanted a challenge and decided to ascend the western summit of Elbrus via the most difficult and dangerous route through the Balkbashi Pass. And the ascent was successful. At the end of April, in spite of difficulties related to high-altitude acclimatization, the team conquered the peak of Elbrus and started their descent. En route, Lykov's group met another team and told them that they had planned to spend the night on the plateau next to the pass. Their colleagues warned them that this might not be a good idea, given that the weather that day wasn't particularly good. At night, the inhabitants of the base camp on Elbrus heard a horrible noise, as if a block of ice had broken off and crashed at an unbelievable speed. Despite that, the Lykov group decided against changing their plans. It was the last time that they were seen alive. Before they set out for the summit, Lykov announced the planned date of their return. When the hikers didn't come back to the base camp by that date and didn't get in touch, it became clear that something terrible had happened. A large-scale rescue operation was immediately organized in the area where the hikers had presumably made camp for the night. As Alexei Yuroshevsky, first vice president of the Sports Tourism Federation, said, the rescuers had combed through all the places where they thought the team might possibly be, but found nothing. The search continued for several months. The rescuers were well aware that by now they were searching for the hikers' bodies. There was no way they could still be alive. But even the bodies seemed to have vanished into thin air. After months of unsuccessful searching, the operation was terminated. A year later, in 1988, friends of the lost hikers arrived from Moscow and scoured the area foot after foot. During their search on the western plateau of Elbrus, they found and left in place the bodies of Ilyukhin and Karavayev. One of the members of Lykov's group was caught in a picture made by another team of hikers. It was presumed that the photograph was taken only a few hours before the tragedy occurred, which was why the search group went to the place where it was taken. Once again, they combed through the entire plateau by hand, foot after foot, but could find no other traces of the lost climbers. The missing hikers from Lykov's group would remain such for a long time. The hope that someone would someday find out what happened to them seemed to have melted away. Until the year 2018, when this tragic story took an unexpected turn. The August of 2018 was especially hot on Elbrus. Due to global warming, the glaciers around the mountain are actively melting. It was at this time that a team of hikers from Vladimir was climbing Elbrus via the same route the Lykov group had used 31 years ago. Their trek started from the mountain village of Herzog and went through the Uluchiran Glacier. As the head of the group, Valery Melnikov, recounted, on August 23rd and the 8th day of their hike, at an altitude of around 4,000 meters or 13,000 feet, the team made a discovery that they would hardly forget. We were traversing the northern slope of Elbrus. During this part of the route, we had to climb over cracks and glaciers, occasionally jumping and crawling over them. Suddenly, on the Uluchiran Glacier, we saw some sort of blue object. As we approached it, at a distance of about 50 meters, we realized that it was a human arm sticking out from the snow. When the hikers came closer, they could not believe their eyes. A small figure of a woman was visible in the ice. The frozen body was almost unchanged, and the woman looked like a wax doll. Tragic though this discovery was, the hikers understood that this was something that can unfortunately happen in the mountains. The next astounding discovery in the ice was a passport and a plane ticket to Mineralny Vody from the year 1987. The hikers had found Bunny, Yelena Bazikina, the most miniature member of the Lykov group. For 30 years, the ice of Elbrus had kept her body intact. The climbers immediately reported the horrifying discovery to the emergency service of the Karachay-Cherkess Republic. Yelena's body may have never been found had it not been for the anomalous heat of that summer. Another search and rescue team was dispatched to the spot where the body was discovered. They labored for 3 days to free the hiker's corpse from the ice and bring it back down. Returning dead bodies from the mountains is a difficult process, because if the person weighed, say, 77 kilograms when they were alive, their frozen mass can reach up to 300 kilograms. Such a load can only be brought down using special equipment. Next to the passport and the tickets, hikers found money and other documents. They were kept in a plastic bag, and they were well preserved, untouched by time and water. Upon the discovery of Yelena Bazikina's body, authorities launched a criminal investigation which was joined by forensic experts. The autopsy of Yelena's body further supported the theory that Lykov's group died in an accident caused by forces of nature. The autopsy report states that Yelena had multiple broken limbs and ribs, injuries that one typically gets from getting caught in an avalanche. But experts couldn't be 100% sure that this was the case. Besides, the next logical question would then be, where are the bodies of the other hikers? This question also remains yet unanswered. Yelena dying in an avalanche is more of speculation than a fact. Similar injuries can result from falling into a crevice or uncontrollably skidding across ice. The ropes that connected the team could have ruptured from the impact of the fall, scattering them across the plateau and separating them from each other forever. It's possible, however, that even after an uncontrolled fall or avalanche, the team was still alive. But having received many terrible injuries, covered in snow and ice, they simply weren't capable of getting back to the surface and slowly froze to death without the slightest hope of being found and returned to the camp. The problem was that on that day, there were no other teams in the area who could have theoretically witnessed the avalanche and come to the rescue, having heard the cries of Lykov's group. They were completely alone. Hypothermia makes for a horrible death. One's body gets to gradually turn itself off. The heart and the nervous system stop functioning properly, leading to hallucinations. The person starts shaking, loses the ability to speak, their breath becomes shallow, and their pulse weakens. In the end, it's usually the heart or the respiratory system that gives out first. Sometimes the following can happen. Before a person dies, they start feeling very hot and take off their clothes, accelerating death of hypothermia. If the group was caught in an avalanche, we can be pretty sure that they stood no chance. Avalanches move at astounding speeds, sweeping away everything in their path. Those people who are unlucky enough to be in this way usually die of multiple bone fractures and the shock associated with the pain. With the help of the Sports Tourism Federation, the relatives of Yelena Bazikina were found, her cousins and uncle. They brought Lena's body back to Moscow and finally buried her. They were offered a plot at the Mountaineers cemetery in the Karachay-Cherkess Republic, but the relatives turned down the offer. Yelena Bazikina is buried with her parents at the Khovanskoe cemetery near Moscow. But this was not the end of the Lykov group's story. On August 3, 2020, Konstantin Sergin, a mountaineering instructor from Moscow State University, found on the Karachay Glacier a Yermak backpack, an old Soviet brand of hiker backpacks. This brings us back to the avalanche theory. Hikers are told that in case of an avalanche, they must immediately take off their backpacks. Perhaps this was how the abandoned Yermak ended up on the glacier, separated from its owner. It was impossible to completely free the backpack from the ice, but in it was found a camera made by the Leningrad-based factory Lomo. Having known that Yelena Bazikina's body was found in Elbrus a few years ago, Sergin conjectured that the camera might have belonged to somebody from the Lykov group. Indeed, Anatoly Ilyukhin's daughter recalled that her father owned a camera of that brand. Forensic scientists are currently working with the camera. Perhaps if they manage to extract photos from it, we might find out something new about the fate of the hikers. Officials of the Russian Sports Tourism Federation say that in recent years, mountains have been returning the bodies of climbers one after another. The glaciers are melting, and so the dead resurface. There have been hundreds of deaths on Elbrus, and dozens of its victims are still hidden in its treacherous crevices and forbidding ice. What do you think really happened to the group? Please let me know in the comments. You can also watch other 2 of my videos covering Elbrus incidents. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel not to miss new stories like this one.